Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today on the show, I have a particularly fabulous duo from the UK with us, Michele Atijas and Amber Friederichs. They are the principals of Yohan May Interiors. Their company started out of necessity when Amber was unable to find a home staging agency that offered the personalization and the curation that she was looking for. They decided together, she asked Michele, her friend, and they decided together that they would handle the project. And soon they were getting all kinds of terrific feedback from developers and real estate agents. And in 2015, Yohan May Interiors was born. Together, they not only attend seminars and industry events, they also teach, speak, and mentor at some of London's leading interior design schools. They believe consistent growth is a mix of education and inspiration. Today, you'll learn that the clientele and the projects that Yohan May attracts are at the very highest level of luxury real estate in London. The pressure is high in this market, and they explain how every project has two primary goals: to sell the home fast and to sell it for the highest possible price. Listen as Michele and Amber discuss their turnaround times, how they cannot concern themselves with the client's taste and design style, and how it's about positioning the home for sale. This business model may not be for everyone, but if it's for you, Michele and Amber help us see the keys to being successful in this industry. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this conversation. I'm also pretty sure that you're going to love to hear this news. That's right, our friends at Kravet Inc. are having a big furniture sale. It started January 14th and it runs through March 4th, 2019. Right now, you can get 10% off Kravet furniture, Lee Joffa furniture, and Holland McRae furniture. Now, you know exactly what I'm going to say, don't you? I want you to specify either Kravet furniture, Lee Joffa, or Holland McRae furniture, or heck, all three, for your next project. And I want you to take the 10% that you save and I want you to reinvest it in your business, right? It's like this little thank you gift from Kravet. So when you check out, use the code W7 so that you get your 10% off, okay? So that's the code is W7. Take your 10% savings and put it back into something that will help you grow your business. Now, let me introduce you to Michele and Amber. Hi, Michele. Hi, Amber. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, this is Amber.
Hi, Luann. This is Michele.
Ladies, I'm so excited to talk with you guys. You are designers from across the pond, as they say, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
A very big pond.
Yeah. That's it. So we have had a couple of you guests that have been based in London. Of course, I have Polly Williams from Camber Yard. I didn't ask you off air. Do you guys know Polly Williams?
Haven't met her, no.
Okay.
No.
You know of her. She's a business coach specifically for interior designers and creatives.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Well, we'll definitely look her up.
Yeah, definitely. She's right there in London. I believe it's London she's located, and she's outstanding. I adore her. And then, of course, we had Joe Buckerfield, who was the kitchen expert, right? I don't know if you remember hearing that show.
Yeah.
And then we had Rachel Laxer, who has companies both in London and New York City. So we've ventured across the pond a couple times, and I have to say, I do have a big following of listeners in the UK. case. So I'm so glad that we're doing this today to try and, get a little bit handle on if there's differences in what happens. But as I said in the introduction, it's more than that. You guys specialize in very high-end, high-quality home staging in London there. So this is going to take another turn in that regard right there. So let's start by talking about, I saw on your website, let's just dig right into it, because I saw on your website your process. And of course, I'm familiar with home staging and through Window Works. I work with Sweet Life Home here, Leah Gomberg. She's amazing. And I see the pressure that she's under. And she actually did some home staging for me when I sold a property. But when I looked at your process, and for all I know, Leah has this stated on her process at this point too. So Leah, if you're listening, my apologies. I'm not saying that you don't do this, but this is a pretty bold thing. We say you have a free consult. 24 hours later, you have your quote. 2 weeks from accepting the proposal, you have a 1-day delivery scheduled. Yep. Like, that's beyond comprehension.
Yes. We do not fail.
You do
Never,
not
yet.
fail. You have never failed yet.
No, I mean, okay, probably not completely true. As in the sense that, of course, sorry, and this is Amber, by the way, it is possible that, let's say like on the day of installation, something goes wrong, an item gets damaged, and we do need to come back the next day to replace this. I'm not going to lie and say that that's never happened, because I think that happens with every business.
Right.
But yes, no, we definitely, very much like when we get an inquiry through, we respond to it. I mean, pretty much right away. I think we always respond like within a few hours, at least one of us will be available, and otherwise someone in our team. And yes, we always ask, initially sort of for a floor plan, maybe some photographs. And then we say like, yes, when would you like to book in your free site visit? And of course, like this site visit is very much about us inspecting the property, seeing what our access points are, how can we deliver, and to give sort of, I would say, like minimal recommendation. So, of course, since this is a free site visit, it's not that we are going there and exactly going into, you should be doing this and this, because that's not what the free site visit is about. It's, it's very much for us there to assess the property. And then, we go back, we have a look, of course, also what we have in stock, what do we need to buy. We get a estimate out. And then if the client wants to go ahead, we say from the moment they sign with us, that's when the 2 weeks start. Of course, actually, sometimes we can actually even deliver in 1 week or 10 days, but we just kind of give the 2 weeks is actually a little bit of a cushion for ourselves.
Okay. So the thing about the couple of things that you said in there is that, first, I understand we're not walking through on the free site visit and saying that sofa should be this way and that plant should be this way, right? You're taking it in. So I'm going to pick this apart like I always do from the standpoint if we have a listener, a colleague that would like to emulate what you're doing, right? So so we're not giving away the goods on the site visit. We're being gracious and we're acknowledging certain questions that maybe we're going to answer, but we're mostly taking the property in. Now, how in when you do your turnaround in 24 hours, I heard you also say in there that you're now evaluating your inventory because you have an inventory of product. Yeah. What sort of, what are we talking about? How much space are we talking about, inventory of product?
We have, I would say, sort of like 1,000 square foot at all times. And then we do have our warehouse is actually like at a bigger warehouse where we can go up and down in space at any time. So this 1,000 square foot is sort of like our like regular aisles with, the accessories and the soft furnishings and X amount of furniture items. And then if we need more, we can take out other units and and then go down in size again.
Wow. And so this is a lot to have happen in 24 hours. You must be in the site visit taking all your measurements, because if you're because if you're going to evaluate what's going to fit, you have to know the space. It can't just show up a week and a half, 2 weeks later, and that sofa didn't fit. And you're not doing another visit after they agree. So it's the process isn't you agree, then we come back and take final measurements. You already know what you're doing.
Yes, very much so. And I would say specifically in a city like London, or the first measurement we will take is the one of the front door, because obviously, there are some beautiful sofas out there, or, really nice plush occasional chairs, but if they're not going to fit through the door, there's not even a point considering them.
Right.
And this is Michelle. Actually, the average sized front door here is 72 centimeters, so it's actually very limiting with what you can fit in. So there's always sort of, do we need to source something for this project to get it in the house, or do we need to hoist it? We often hoist, so whether it's a crane or like ropes to hoist these furniture pieces into windows if it's, a property up high with limited access.
This is a lot of moving parts for 24 hours, I have to say. I mean, honestly, because what my brain goes to, I guess, you must have, first of all, absolutely finite systems in place, because when I just start to think about the things that you've described, we need to know what size sofa will look good scale proportion wise, because the whole point of this is to make the room look better, not just fit something in it. If we're going to stick with whatever's there, that will fit, you could stick with whatever's there, for crying out loud, right? So we have to have something that makes an improvement on the space, that it fits in the space and it's ideal for the space, but then it gets through the front door, and if it doesn't, we have to know, can we hoist it? And that's a lot of calculations from a standpoint of costs. And you are this is on top of, or do you generally, maybe I should ask this question, do you generally stage a room, and the most of your clients are saying, hey, make this one room look outstanding and they can think about the others? Or do you generally, your projects are the entire space, whether it's at a flat or a home, or what's the deal with that?
This is Michelle. Actually, usually it's the entire space. So for sure, we've done projects where it's only one room, or, the master bedroom and the, the living spaces. But actually, usually it's the entire place. So it can be a huge house or a small flat.
So the level of clientele that you're dealing with, obviously the property values are probably in a much higher bracket than your typical mid-level bracket, whatever that is in the UK, right? But the point is that if they're going to do the whole house, they're not, or the whole flat, they're not saying, leave the kids' rooms out, just make the master. Sometimes you're saying that happens, but by and by, most of your clients are saying, make the whole place look outstanding.
Exactly.
And what happens? Do you also have to take into consideration getting their stuff out? Or do you say to them, if you sign this contract, we're telling you, and you've already agreed, we're using new beds, new furniture, this, and all of you're responsible for getting your ugly old furniture out of here?
This is Michelle again. It actually depends, again, client by client. So we do try and always provide a really flexible service. So if someone's within a budget and they want to spend X amount, then we'll, make recommendations, or if there is furniture there that we can work with, then we will, and we'll say that we can. But we have done quite a few projects where the house is full of very old, very dated furniture that needs to be removed. And then we, work with charities and have those items donated to charity, and we do offer to organise that. But it also, again, it just depends. So if a client's happy to pay us to organise the removal, then that's fine. But usually, if it's on a budget, then they'll just do it themselves.
Okay, because I guess obviously, you're putting your finest work on the website. So I'm picturing all of the work on the website, and I'm like, that's nobody's old stuff there. That all looks amazing. So there are some situations where you work in new with existing is the point. It's not all always take it all out and put it all in new.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would. Yes. This is Amber. So I would say most of the time it's actually all our furniture.
Yeah.
It's on occasion that yes, someone does have like a bed in there or a sofa, and then even quite often we actually get the question, what do you think of the sofa? Do you think we can keep it? And well, I'd say mostly it's no.
And do you find
but of
in
course
those
you have to be more tech.
Right, exactly. I always say there's inside voice and the outside voice.
Yeah.
This is what I say in my head, and this is what I tell my client, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, when somebody would like to, maybe they agree that it all has to go in order to move this, very expensive property and appeal to a higher end clientele. Do you sometimes have people say, but I like my old stuff, thank you very much, can we put that in storage while we do this? Or is it mostly they are dispersing it through antique sales or whatever it may be?
Yeah. No, they're mostly getting rid of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you really are
Yeah,
swimming
sure.
in a very fun, high luxury lane. That's what's happening. Yeah, we're not dealing with the
Exactly.
regular people down here. Okay, I'm getting
We're
it.
very much in London, not
Yes.
in the UK.
Okay, right. Okay, so I'm understanding. And so that is something to be considerate of, something to consider if you are listening and thinking, I'd love to do this, because you are at the very high luxury end of this market. Mm-hmm. And so some of the things that occur here are going to be across the board, but like the process and the way you execute and things like that, but some level of the services and the budget. So somebody else could be a stager in the UK working there with you and not be at a level where we're going to pitch the baby with the bathwater. We're making the best of what's happening here and adding some things. That's
Yes.
just not you guys. Okay.
No, exactly. And I think that is very much is also to do with the kind of clientele here in London. I think on sort of taking an average is that we are dealing with a client that is not even necessarily interested in actually being involved in the process at all. Like, we very often have foreign investors that will contact us, via like email or phone, and they're not even coming to London at all. So, they're actually expecting either us to just deal with everything or have their agent deal with us. So yes, it's just, a little
So
bit
that,
different.
I guess that begs the question then, being in business only 3.5 years, how do you come out and stake your claim and attract that clientele to you out the gate? How did you do that?
Originally, the way that we actually started is because, as you already mentioned, I came from doing project renovations, or actually project management for renovations, and therefore I had a lot of contacts already within the real estate sector. I already knew some developers. I already knew a few managers of different real estate offices around London, and therefore when we started, it was very much we sort of just like put the feelers out to the people that we knew, and we said, we'd really like to get into this, and we actually immediately had one person say like, well, actually, this was a developer that was doing for actually a client of his. He's selling a Muse house in Notting Hill, which the houses there, to kind of like put it into perspective, are sort of your £10 million plus properties. And so he was like, well, I'll let you have a go at it, because he obviously didn't know the type of renovations that I'd already done. So he did know that it would be of a high standard. And Michele and I, we very much decided to just go, 50-50 investment into it. And that's the first property we did. And of course, we photographed it. We put it all over social media. We built our website. And that's the way that we started. And then from there on out, it's very much about, your networking. It's about, going to all the, both like social and like business events that will connect you within that same circle.
I think this is Michele. I think the other thing to add is that actually at the time when we started 3.5 years ago, home staging was actually quite a relatively new concept here in London. For sure, home staging has been around for a long time, but a lot of people didn't really use it and didn't really know what that was when we would speak to them. And that's definitely changed a lot now. There's a lot more companies doing home staging in London and across the UK. And definitely don't have to explain home staging as much anymore when we're networking and speaking to people about what we're doing.
Okay. And so to really bring that around, it started with having a skill set and a reputation for doing high-end luxury design, and then it was a matter of letting those contacts and that network of people know that you were thinking about going into this.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I mean, look, it makes sense, right? Yeah. If you're not already capable of curating and understanding and recognizing what high-level luxury design is, you're not likely to be any more successful at it as a home stager out the gate than you are a designer. Like, you have to get there first, right? You have to know what it is. Okay. So, and I also heard in there that you said that you decided right off the bat to do a 50-50 investment. So do you mean to say that from the birth of the company, the two of you decided that let's invest in an inventory, or is that what you meant by that? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So now that's interesting and risky to me in the sense that, not so, I mean, obviously from a business standpoint, it's risky, but style wise, like, do you just said, is it the same as like we talk about on the show? I know that you ladies listen to the show, so I'll speak to you in that regard. Is it like we talk about on the show that you were confident to spend that investment on a style and a look of furniture because that was exactly only the style and look of staging that you wanted to do? You weren't about to go out. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And of course, your style does change over time, or not, I wouldn't say change. Evolve over time. It's, and you sort of, actually, I think you more build on it.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And
you learn what works and what doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah. You see what the gap is, because actually that's what you want. You want to provide a look that actually embodies your brand, and that people, like, for sure, people are contacting us and hiring us because they like our look. They like the look that we give, and that is definitely something that wasn't around at the time when we started. So we're really confident in that, basically.
That's awesome. That's such a profound thing right there. You see, because we talk about this on the show all the time. Put out there what you want to be. If you have a look that you prefer and you want to be known for it, right? And and there is the thing that I often learn when I speak with the designers in real life at events is that there is a fear that if they only put out in marketing, whichever form it is, whatever form it is, this particular look, then they're going to leave behind clients that might have hired them, and they can say to themselves quite confidently, I could design in that client's look. And so the fact of the matter is that, tell me if you agree, whether you're a designer or you're a stager, if you love to do design that always truly reflects the client's aesthetic first, that's okay. That's okay, right? But you don't have to. And if you enjoy designing in a specific way, then this is the way you do it. You keep only putting that look out there.
Yeah, very much so. And I think, of course, you slightly amend that look, like depending also, I mean, especially in our case, what the property looks like, because of course here in London you can have very traditional looking houses, or you can actually go to your very modern contemporary new builds. And so of course we will walk into a property and therefore change the staging and styling depending on what the property
Right, it's
needs.
not a cookie cutter. You're not when we say your look, I don't want anybody to think that's what I'm saying either, that your brain doesn't engage and you don't design, you just cookie cutter. But the point is, if somebody wants their property staged like Althorpe Castle, for example, it's not happening. You're not the girls.
No, exactly. Well, it's exactly what you said, right? It's that, no, of course, you can't absolutely provide every service. There is a certain standard that you set for yourself. And therefore, then if somebody, I would say, actually comes in and asks us for more of your, kind of like cottagey feel, or, just
I would say, we're definitely not the right people for that.
Right.
It's also when you think about the world's, most well-known designers in general, when you think about them and their name, there's always a look associated with it. I think some of the most successful designers actually have their own unique look, and that's actually why people hire them, is because that's the look that they want.
Exactly. You're making me remember Fred Burns' episode on the 7 secrets of the luxury interior designer, and I remember correctly, which I think I do. He said that they all have a point of view. And that is the similar statement, right? It doesn't mean that you are not going to tailor to your client, or in your case, you're tailoring to architecture or the target client that you're trying to attract for the rental or the sale. But it just means that it's okay to lean into an aesthetic that encompasses what makes you happy, basically, is what we're saying. Okay. And so that's why you were comfortable making a financial investment in the furniture pieces and the accessories and the lighting and the things that you would have as part of your warehouse on hand. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the thing about it is that I would have to say, you tell me, I'm guessing, that if you're interested in home staging at this level, it almost seems like it's a requirement to start with an inventory. You're not going to build it as you go along, because if you're going to come in and play with the big boys, you got to be ready. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I mean, of course, I think as any starting business, we did sort of, start with a couple of like smaller projects, and yes, probably a little bit more like spread out as well. But that's also because, you are just starting. So you still are in that position that you need to be selling yourself. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Because I'm just thinking about it. And of course, there's nothing wrong with starting out that way without the big inventory. I'm not implying that there's only one way to do it, but I'm just seeing how more difficult it would be if the staging was more or less, say, 70% restricted to using their existing furnishings and accessories or whatever it may be. There's only so much you can do with it. And whereas if you have the budget to have your own inventory, you are going to more successfully transform the space.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. And I would like to add to that there are, of course, like certain circumstances. For example, we hear if we're doing, let's say, like a bigger property that also has like a fitness room, that has a cinema room, or actually, it's of such a high standard that it will actually require some like original like art pieces. We have developed relationships with several art agencies over the years, and also, a couple of like, let's say, like fitness equipment companies, where in that case we will lease pieces from, or actually in most cases they're happy to just supply pieces for the duration of the lease, because, of course, with the intention of selling it at the end of it.
So that's interesting. So is that that would sound like to me that it's a case-by-case basis. So if you're going to approach an art dealer, you start with, would you like to place it? And if we can sell it, we will. And if they say no, okay, can I rent it? Like, right? Like you just work the deal out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then maybe after 2 or 3 times where there's success, they're more inclined to put it in on a consignment basis and sell it from the house after they see that you're more or less successful at selling the items, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And then what happens there from a logistical standpoint of business and insurance is when, particularly in the case of technical equipment and for art, that has a value, do you assume responsibility for transport, or do they? And then even if they transport, so that's up to them to get it back and forth in one piece, what happens while it's in the house? How do you guys handle that insurance issues? It's one thing when it comes from your warehouse and somebody looks at the house and breaks it, but what about those things that you loan or lease?
Yeah, exactly. It's quite tricky. For example, with artwork, we as a company can't actually get insurance to handle artwork. So actually the art agencies and galleries that we work with have their own insurance, and so they're actually covered. So we're able to, obviously tell our clients that these pieces are covered while they're in your house. And then for other items, we also, our client has to have cover because we aren't able to actually get insurance for the items when they're in our client properties because it's an access and security issue. So there's no way that we have the control over who can get in and out of the property, and an estate agent is, bringing people for viewings, etc. So, insurance for the client.
Okay, so in a lot, maybe other than in the case of very expensive original art or something, but for the most part, it's the homeowner's insurance that is covering even your items. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's the case. Up until we deliver everything. Of course, we're covered up until that point.
Right.
But yeah, once we close the door and leave their beautiful home, they assume the responsibility.
Okay. And then I'm sure there are situations where the property has been leased or sold and you come back and you're saying to Mr. or Mrs. Client, I didn't leave this rug in this condition. And, is that something where, is it a matter of having it very tightly worded in your contract? Is it a situation where you have to document the condition that you brought things in? Because these are all the nudgy parts that break a business down and make you lose your brains, right?
Yeah.
No, but yeah, exactly. I mean, of course, all the items that we put into the property are as new. So we won't be putting in items that have any sort of damage on them. So if anything does happen, it's actually in the case, as what Michele said, is that the items do need to be covered by the client. And I mean, it is expected that, for example, a rug is dirty after 12 weeks. It's, of course, people do walk in and out.
You're okay to clean, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we factor that in.
Yeah.
But now, so stop, hang on for a second, because you just said it's new. So are you saying that once a piece has some sort of nick or damage or on it, that's it? It's out of your repertoire, or it gets repaired back to new? Like you never bring, like it's in the back and nobody sees it in the way it's going to be. You don't bring it in if it has that?
No, we don't.
Whoa.
If in the case that, let's say, it does have something on there, then we will always let our client know. Or, we have, in the case we've donated, of course, like things to charity, or
we've had things repaired, of course, as well, if necessary. But also, obviously the end goal is to actually have whoever's buying a property to actually buy all the furniture. So it actually creates more problems for us later if we put something in that then needs to be replaced.
Okay. Okay. So again, I have to keep reminding myself we're not talking about your average Joe home staging project here. It's like, Lynn, get with the program here. This is that really upper level. Okay. That does make sense. It's so funny because when Leah from Sweet Life Home staged my house when I sold it, I guess it's 6 years ago now in Florham Park, she took out an area rug that we had that was very traditional needlepoint rug that we had gotten in Italy and yada yada, and she's just like, it's gotta go. And she put in this sisal rug, and my dog, who at that point was 10 years old and fully house trained, of course he had an accident on Leah's rug. I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. And you're not getting that out of a sisal rug. You're just not. So Leah looked at me. She's like, so it looks like you own a rug. I'm like, yes, it does.
Can I ask you a question, Luann? Were you living in the property?
Yes, I was.
Okay,
yes.
So I think for us, our furniture and software, it never gets used. Nobody lives in the property.
Oh, again, that higher level. I'm really forgetting. I keep, all these little analogies in my mind are off the table when you think about these are, like you said,
show homes.
Yes, these are big corporations or whatever it may be that they rent the place they have the place for their executives to come in and work for 2 or 3 years in London, and now they don't want to own it anymore because they moved their home office or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Or even, it can be a family that's actually just like moving to another place, but they've already moved and their home is for sale.
Right.
And either, they're actually putting it on the market, or it has been on the market for 6 months, or, they just kind of like need to make that difference. That's when we come in. But yes, it's very much when we get the question, can you come and stay at your home that I'm living in? That is not a service that we do.
Okay.
It's not at least something that we do at this stage.
Okay.
Of course, there's things that you consider. I think, as you know, in the whole design world, there are so many different options where you can expand into that we've sort of decided to stick to the staging, furniture packs, some interior design, and we also have an online store. So it's enough for the moment.
You're in your lane. I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And it goes to what I said, a few moments ago about it's okay to say no to certain things if you really don't want to do it. It will be fine. More of your own people will continue to find you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yes. No, right. We are regular people, and we lived in our house when Leah staged it. Yes, we were there. So, okay. So makes sense. Total sense. Okay. So get me to the logistics of when you have such your deadlines are tight from beginning to end. You put it on yourself that an inquiry comes in, gets answered within hours, and then you put it on yourself that a quote is produced within 24 hours. And then, of course, we've stated 2 or 3 times about the 2-week turnaround or sooner. You don't have an incredibly large team. I mean, you have 3 or 4 people in addition to the 2. Is it 2 people in addition, Jack and Beatrice, in addition to the 2 of you, or there's more? Okay. So, of course, they're not moving furniture. You have another service or team for that. I'm sure of that.
Yes.
But that's even for 4 people. That just seems like an inordinate amount of pressure. And so does that mean, say you got 4 inquiries today. Now, I understand that 4 inquiries coming in, one might say, my apartment I want stage in a month from now, and one might say in 3 months, or one might say today. I understand they could each come in with their own timeline, but what can you handle at one time? How many at one, within, say, 1 month, maybe with different stops and starts, but that's a tight amount of time.
Yeah. It will very much depend on the size of the property,
of course, right.
Because obviously if you're dealing with a very small 1-bedroom, or, you go for, a big like 5-bedroom house, that will very much depend on that. But I would say on average, we do about 4 to 5 a month. Yeah.
Wow. And do you work independently, the 2 of you? So Amber's on one site? You do. Okay. So you're not tag teaming everything. Okay.
Yeah. It's sometimes it's a little bit difficult because we very much love bouncing ideas off each other.
Yeah, exactly.
So we very much like to have both our opinion, and therefore I'd say especially towards the end of the day of each project, we always try to for both of us to actually be there. So we kind of like, see like, oh, what do you think? And what do you think? So
okay.
It's, we do try to do that. But no, one person has to take charge of the project and the other one needs to not be involved, because otherwise you just,
divide and conquer.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me some of the things that I don't know to ask. Tell me some of the things that, this part is particularly rewarding, or this part is particularly challenging, or a lesson that you learned that it wouldn't even occur to me because I don't know that so well to ask. Anything come to mind? I'll tell you what. When you think about that, I thought of a question I do know to ask.
Okay.
If someone is considering doing this, now we're going to restrict this to your luxury level, because we're not going to talk about it at another level because we don't know it to be true. We know what you know to be true, okay? If somebody were looking at this business model, what is, say, an average 2-bedroom flat, London, great location? What is a projected budget that might cost to do, and what is the target that you hope to be for your net profit margin or your gross profit margin, whichever way you want to look at it?
Yeah. So the sort of like net profit that we're working towards, I would say, is on average, because obviously it very much depends on if some properties we need to invest more in than others. So it can go, or, our net profit can go as low, I would say, as 20. It can go as high as 80 in really good circumstances. So I think on an average, we're looking at about like 45 about.
Okay.
That's sort of, I think, like what we need and what we figured out to run our business.
Right, because there is a number that the business needs in order to be sustainable, and you're not just, taking money from somebody, put it in your account and putting it back out again. Some of it's got to stay back behind. And so when we talk about shooting for a 45% net, so for designers listening, if we were talking about gross profit, we would not be deducting, say, delivery costs and hoisting costs and that sort of thing. When we talk about net profit, we're talking about all of those costs are in, and when all of those costs are done and added up for a particular project, our goal is shooting for about a 45% net profit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a very, when you talk about it on net numbers, that's pretty healthy. So,
Oh, absolutely. And it's of course, it is always a goal as well.
Right.
And sometimes you don't get projects completely right. You do actually end up spending more time on it than you initially thought. It's good to have those goals.
Right, and the things that drive the project up, I'm sure certain you arrange for the installation day, you've got your trucks all running, you've got your guys all paying, and you get there, and maybe the realtor has the different day, so that's eating into your profits right there, where you still got to pay all your people. So we're not talking about all the nonsense that happens to all of us in business that makes us want to pull our hair out. Yes.
No, definitely. And we do have cancellation charges in our contract.
Oh, so there you go. I love it. So you don't have to worry about that. Very nice.
Well, I mean, it's still, I think even a cancellation charge never actually fully covers you, but
right.
At least, for a client's perspective, We've been in very difficult situations, but I don't think we've ever been in a situation where we actually had to cancel.
Okay. Well, but here's the thing. That's what's great about having a fully enunciated contract that comes from all the things that have gone wrong, or somebody that exactly. Because now when you put it in the contract that this is the cancellation fee, people take it much more seriously, the appointment.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
As opposed to there's no harm, no foul, and you standing there all day telling somebody that I had to pay 5 guys in a truck and a hoist. So what? Tell somebody who cares. I couldn't get here, right? So, but when they've agreed to pay dollar bills for it, or pounds, or whatever it is, they will take it differently. So, any thoughts come on some of the aspects of it that now, Amber, you've done interior design and this home staging, both at the luxury level. Other than the pressure of the timeline and, of course, not necessarily having to take into account a homeowner's taste, what are some of the other differences, both that are maybe not so amazing and some that are a little bit more of a payoff, like pros and cons maybe?
Sort of between interior design and home staging, you mean? Yes. Well, we actually, one thing I actually wanted to talk to you about is that, what I think in specifically, what maybe, people in the US might not realize is that how new home staging is in the UK. And we actually had our home staging association was only set up this year.
Wow.
So it's really, really new. And we're actually part of their founding members. And we only had our very first meeting about 3 weeks ago now. So
that's just so for future listeners, that's the quarter 4 of 2018. Wow. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So very, very recent. And one of the interesting things that was actually brought up at our panel discussion was the fact that somebody actually asked the questions like, we as home stagers, do we think that we're in the interior design business or are we in the real estate business?
That's a big conversation here too.
Yeah, exactly. And it's true. We're in the real estate business. It has, in a way, little to do with interior design because we are the ones that come in as the professionals and experts exactly in the field. And we're not actually there to listen to the client, to what they want. It's no, we come in and we know what makes a home sell. Right. So we're not going to sit down with you and go through fabric samples, to go through paint colors. It's very much like, no, you're going to leave it up to us and we're going to dress the property that is going to achieve the highest value for the property, that's going to make people walk in and think like, oh my God, yes, this is a home where I want to live. We don't want to make it too personal. We very much want the focus to stay actually on the property. And the furniture just actually simply needs to add to that. And also in that defense, again, it said, you know, we walk into a property and let's say it is completely renovated. It's beautiful. We therefore then actually will make the furniture probably a bit more subdued and neutral. And because we want the focus to very much be on the property. Then again, if we actually walk into a place where it's actually in need of renovations and, you know, it has the sort of like cracking on the wall and, it actually really needs a new coat of paint. We'll actually probably put in furniture and accessories that might be very much, you know, maybe like gold and like metallics. And it's more that the focus then all of a sudden becomes the furniture. So it kind of like people walk in and they'll see the beautiful space, but they won't necessarily notice those little cracks on the wall.
Okay, that's a very great distinction to understand for us, because what you're saying is if the bones of the home is great, then the furniture is second fiddle, but vice versa.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. And how about that in your 2-week process? Is paint ever part of it, or do you just deal with whatever is there?
We can, for sure. So but that will depend sort of on the client's budget. So of course,
what about hideous wallpaper? I mean, you just work around it,
paint over it.
We'll always make recommendations, even regardless of budget. So if we walk into a house and see some, you know, really dated wallpaper, or, you know, really poor, maybe the house is or the apartment has been tenanted and it's in really poor condition, just actually putting a coat of paint on the walls can sometimes make such drastic improvement, and to the point where actually we're selling staging. So do we actually want someone to stage their house and then it not sell because of these things? It actually is in our favor to, you know, make sure that the house sells or rents as fast as possible. So we'll always make the recommendation to the client, okay, this is what we recommend. Maybe there's some new carpet that needs to be laid, or some new paint, or getting rid of some wallpaper. And actually I would say that's usually really well received, because some of our competitors, I don't believe, do that. So we also organise all of that to be done. So we work with a renovations team, and we can turn that around. And sometimes, yes, within a couple of weeks, sometimes longer, but obviously that's always agreed with the client up front before they go ahead with that type of work.
So 2 things there. I would have thought, now that I'm finally at the same party as you guys and at the high level luxury here, design level, I would have thought that when it's needed, I would have thought that was a non-negotiable for you. I would have thought that you would say, what is actually the point of me putting in, you know, $50,000 worth of furniture if the wallpaper is from 1922, right? Yeah. So you're saying that you make the recommendation, but sometimes you have to work around it, or again at your level. Okay. And then you mentioned a renovation team. Is that a relationship that you've built with a separate company?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And are they your go-to, or do you have several?
Absolutely. No.
Our go-to.
Yeah. Okay. So that's team. Also, and is that go-to team, do they like So, for instance, for Michele and Amber, they're always doing 1 day and 2 week, 10-day turnaround, but they also have another designer who is full service luxury, and they might be working on a 6-month project with them. Or are they a specialty in this the way you are?
No, so they do actually like full on renovations, as in completely, like extensions, like basement digs. They probably sort of like go to I'd say the next level than what we go to. But this specific team is a team that I've actually been working with for many years. I've been working with them for about 7 years now, because when I was doing the project management for renovations, that was a team that I was working with. So at the moment, we're, I would say, like very much their number one client. So we know their schedule. We know when they're available. And
they will prioritize us, I think. If they know that something's coming in, they'll make it happen. If they need to hire additional people to, service their other clients, then they'll do that.
Okay, so that's the thing. That's the twist in there, because if it's a company that does full service, you need them to work in your way. You need them to respond and get it done, and not, because you know how it is with contractors. Oh, I'm coming Tuesday. And it's like, well, what Tuesday were you coming? Because 3 have gone by and you still haven't rang my doorbell yet, right? And so you have made a very, very intentional relationship with this company. You have become very important to them, and therefore they give you service at a level that others would not be able to get. Okay.
Exactly. And I actually think that's the key, like for all of the listeners that are thinking about getting into this line of work, to succeed. Everything is about your relationships. Like, Amber mentioned before, the relationships that she brought from her previous line of work. It's all about your relationships. So relationships with estate agents and developers and contractors, and maintaining those relationships. So
Right, because
really
you guys can commit to doing a quote in 24 hours and, everything else. But if you can't get the painter there and you can't get, the guy to pick up the furniture up from your warehouse, there's a lot of moving parts, and you're really having to place a lot of trust in other vendors, that they don't just look at you and say, I'm sorry, I said I could do it, but it's Tuesday morning and I can't come on Thursday. You can't have that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, understood. And going back to the relationship aspect of it, when I asked you at the top of the show, how did you get in? And you mentioned your contacts, Amber. And then you also said, and then we continue to network through the business and social circles where our target client is. What are those business and social circles?
I would say very much like sort of landlord events. There is various trade shows that are putting on like multiple times a year here, where various like investors come, like mostly from other countries. There are events put on by various estate agents, which are sort of like panel discussions about everything to do with the real estate market, and then
design schools. And design schools as well.
Of course, almost forgot.
We support some of the leading design schools here in London. So we go and lecture and about home staging and what we do, especially because it's such a new concept here. And that's a really great way for us to actually just get our name out there. A lot of people that attend those courses are developers, or they're thinking of hiring someone and want to understand the whole concept a little bit more. So that's really great for brand recognition and meeting new people as well.
Okay. And how about, do you have relationships with designers in the London area where somebody might mistakenly think that they could do this, and they'll refer you guys, and then you do full service, so it's hard to wash the hand on the other side, but
well, that's actually very
unless
nice.
It's a different like aesthetic though too, right? You can make a referral.
And of course. And that's very nice about the Home Staging Association that has just recently started, because we're finally now actually meeting our peers like face to face. And of course, having that sort of more like close-knit community is so important to drive home staging here in the UK.
Yeah, there's certainly enough business to go around for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like to me that it would be exactly the way we, as you know, we have a panel discussion and all the designers come and everybody's happy together because you have your aesthetic for home staging, your lane for home staging. You could be very good friends with another firm who is dealing with the homeowners who are going to live in the house and really not be at that. Like there's just like design, there are all different levels.
Exactly.
And a need for all different levels, and therefore not to be thinking about it in a competitive way with your peers, but in a community
collaborative way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I cannot fathom. I often say on the show the number of details that an interior designer has to put together. So when they're doing a full service project and it's the tile selection, the hardware selection, the overseeing of these things, the paint, the carpeting, the furniture, everything. But then this is maybe not as many things because you're not necessarily going all the way to tile and all that stuff. But the point is that the pressure for the timeline for this is just unfathomable to me. I mean, how do you... Are there time? I mean, you guys have one of you at least has kids, because I know we had to think about that in setting up this appointment. I mean, what happens with timelines when you have a family and you, even if you don't, you just want to have a life? Oh, that's what happens. You laugh about it, right? You're like, ha ha.
Yeah, we laugh and just make things happen, I guess.
You laugh in fate's face, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't take holidays together. That's impossible.
Yeah, we don't take holidays together. And I think, I guess Amber and I over the years have also become extremely good friends. So I think, having a great business partner and working relationships certainly helps. Because for sure you have stressful days and we don't mind seeing each other on the weekends. Right.
Right.
And I think also as far as sort of like time management is, I think over the years, like we've, tried out various, software platforms to sort of like manage those like times like differently. And we've now actually figured out that Trello is extremely important.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's something that you use to help keep everybody organized.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's our go-to for the whole team. It's where we manage all our projects on and where we link everything to.
Our to-do list, and we can reprioritize based on what's going on. Because I guess that's what you do when you have like a small growing business, is that it's all about prioritizing and delegating. So if we are really, really busy and seems unmanageable, then there's maybe some tasks that actually can be delayed, as long as they're not client related, of course. But it's very much about just continuously looking at what we're working on and what can be prioritized.
Okay. And then that made me think of two other things that I almost forgot about is the photographer has got to be part of this whole thing too, right? Because you want unlike when people live in it, there is some expectation that the place will look just as nice 2 weeks or 2 months later, but they are going to have potential buyers all the way through it. So do you also put it upon yourself, the pressure to have the photographer there that day or the next day?
Oh, yeah, preferably. Yes, for sure. Because
well, why not? Just pull it all on there. Okay, so that means the whole fresh flowers thing. This is not just put the furniture in. This is like to completion in one day.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then the other question that I realized I almost skipped by is you have a large warehouse with your products in it, but there must be, how often does it come up that you don't have the right sofa or you don't have the right chair? And what do you do when you only have a 2-week turnaround? Do you go buy retail? What do you do?
Well, so therefore, actually, most of the suppliers that we work with, or actually, I should say almost all of the suppliers we work with, they hold stock and they can deliver within a couple of days.
And so they are trade sources, trade-only sources?
Absolutely.
Trade only.
Yeah.
Interesting. Absolutely. That have stock. So for your colleagues in the UK, can you share some of those sources? Because I'm assuming they're probably not necessarily available in the US or Canada or, the other 120 countries that people are listening to the podcast from. But for our UK homies, let's give them some sources.
No, exactly. So we work with Coach House, which is the largest UK supplier of furniture. and we work with Leases and Amber. We work with RVSly, with DI Designs. They're a little bit more new, a bit smaller as well, but we absolutely love working with them.
Yeah, and then we also work with Sofa and Chair Company. They usually only work with interior designers with longer lead times. However, they do also hold stock. So sometimes we've been lucky and been able to source from them with a fast turnaround.
Yeah.
And when you say work with, okay, are we saying that when you need a piece that does not come from your inventory and you go to one of these trade sources that you mentioned, you have to buy it? We're not borrowing this, right? Now you're making a decision that this piece is critical or crucial or pivotal for this design. And if it doesn't sell in this home, when the home sells, you know it's coming to your inventory.
Yes, exactly. We buy it.
So that's a layer of conversation there and analysis too. And do you guys, are you able to function independently since the projects are completely run independent and you're moving at the speed of light? Do you just have a responsibility to the gross or the net profit margin on a job? And if Amber decides she needs to buy a furniture, she gets to do it?
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I do have to say, most of the time we just end up discussing everything.
Okay.
That's just the way that we work, but that's because, we just like bouncing ideas.
It's the great thing about having a business partner. But I mean, ultimately, we want to provide our client with an incredible product that sells their home. So if it means that we have to take a hit on our net profit, then we take a hit on our net profit. But there's always, a bit of a calculated risk. We're going to be looking at, is the stuff that we're putting into this house, is it going to sell? Is this an item that actually is really convenient to actually hold in our inventory? If it doesn't sell, for example, perhaps it's a sofa that's smaller, in which case it will work really well for the properties that we have limited access for. So
there's a lot of ways to evaluate if that expenditure is worthwhile or not, and it's not just the cost of it related to that project. It has other value somewhere, and potentially has other value somewhere. Okay, interesting. And then I guess another thing that occurs to me, see, I asked you to think of all the things that I wouldn't think of, so now you're making me work. It's okay. But another thing that occurs to me is, what about all the way down to the linens and the sheets and the blankets and all the things that make it look like a home? You have all of that in your inventory as well?
Yes. We have aisles in
it's exhausting
warehouse
thinking about your business.
Supermarket aisle. I know. I'm kind of exhausted too.
Yes, right. So now, do those typically sell when the furniture sells, or do you go in and strip the beds and you have to wash them and put them and fold them back on the shelves?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I would say if a bed sells, usually the linen actually sells with it. I would say it's more decorative accessories that doesn't sell.
Yeah.
Okay. And so are you pricing that as, like, in other words, when somebody is potentially buying that bedroom from you, does it say bed $5,000, linens and blanketing on bed $2,000, or is it bed $5,000 and you decide, well, I don't feel like taking it off, they can have it, or I'm taking it off?
Yeah.
No, it has a separate price.
We factor in the cost of everything that we've paid for, because obviously we own everything. So we're going to factor in the cost that we have spent. And then,
and buyers can very much buy everything separately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
And now tell me, are there elves that come in and do this, or are you going to tell me that you guys are making beds and fluffing pillows and stripping beds and washing them?
We absolutely do.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely, we do. It's a really big pet peeve of mine when you see, a show home with crinkled bed sheets. No, I can't deal with that. That's unacceptable.
No.
Everything is steamed and pressed and tucked in tightly and looking absolutely perfect. And if I have to go back to the house, a week or two later for whatever reason, and if I see someone sat on the bed, I'm going to freak out. I'm going to freak out.
Okay, so now I can understand that attachment to that process. I can. I can, because you've just spent 2 weeks, probably 24/7 for those 2 weeks to create this look. But the taking of it off and you take it to your own laundry and your own home and you wash it and fold it and bring it back. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Actually, I could give you an example. It's next week we're actually doing a property that is a very large property also for us, because it's a big muse house where the owner is actually purchasing everything. But it's not just a standard furniture package, because they're actually purchasing an entire show home. So they've also requested us, to put in all the artificial flowers and books and candles and, make all the beds and everything. But everything has to be completely brand new. Everything is purchased for the property. So it's an in-between interior design and staging project, where this only came in last Wednesday. And we are completing the project next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Now, Michele is unfortunately going on holiday. Well, she says unfortunately.
I'm really upset I won't be there for the installation.
She's making me FaceTime her to South Africa.
So I can observe all of the accessories placements.
A little to the left, Amber, a little to the right.
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. I mean, all the way down to the book. So I guess you pick what you like to read.
Pretty much.
It's the layers of the details and the layers of the loose ends and also the physical work is quite overwhelming in thinking about it. It's not a business for the faint of heart.
Yeah. No, definitely not. And you have to be prepared to get your hands dirty, especially if you want to have control over the product that you're leaving your client. So Amber and I are always on site, both of us, or one of us, no matter what. And actually our clients are usually impressed when they see us in our gym clothes, like doing the heavy lifting and doing the steaming of the linens. It's really important if because it's your brand integrity as well.
Mm-hmm. And how about, did you develop the systems trial and error and just say that was a happy mess, let's do it differently this time? I mean, because you have to be running like a tight ship.
Of course.
Yes. It doesn't work otherwise. And it's trial and error, and you learn from your mistakes. And sometimes mistakes are a blessing if you can. I mean, part of running a business is being a problem solver, especially in design, to be fair. So, really thinking on your feet and coming up with solutions.
And would you both say that your systems, I've just made an assumption for an hour because I can't imagine doing it otherwise, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you both say that your systems are enunciated, that they are the same step, the same order, the same execution, so that if Amber is in one location and Michele is doing something in a different location, you're not both like, well, I do it this way and she does it this way. You have a way that it's done each step from the intake all the way through to installation?
I would say the preparation for each project is exactly the same. We very much have a system in place. We know everything that needs to be done, every all the days.
Logistics detail.
Exactly. All the days leading up to the project. However, on the day, you have to be an individual problem solver. And that is,
of course, thinking on your feet.
Well, because Exactly. It's like you cannot be prepared for the problems that arise.
Right. But there's a rule book, there's a handbook, and this is how we do a project, and you both do it the same way.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
And of course, that's also why we're business partners in Michele and I. We very much have the same style. So if we, walk into a property maybe together, we most of the time will have the same pieces of furniture in our head. Yeah. And I mean, we sometimes even laugh about it because, we think about the exact same sofa without even discussing it.
Interesting. Right. Okay. All right. I think it's outstanding. It does sound incredibly challenging, but you two really do seem to be really just executing it with some style and some, not ease. I'm not going to say ease, but you don't sound crazy. So you must, you sound happy. So last parting words of advice for someone thinking about this as a career?
Actually, going back to what I said earlier about a business partner. So I think it definitely helps if you are looking to get into this type of business, actually any business, to have a partner, because you're always going to have a sounding board and someone to help you to make decisions and allow you to take a holiday and I guess just share in the entire experience. So choosing a business partner that kind of fits with kind of what you want to achieve and get out of this journey is critical to your success. Equally, if you decide not to go into business with someone, then looking for a mentor or someone who has achieved something that you admire and want to achieve, that can give you advice and to help you make decisions and on your journey. I think it's really important.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, work together with the people that are already in your industry.
Yeah.
It is so important, to not just see it as competition. It's, everybody strengthens the industry. And it is very important also that if you are, even like things like setting certain prices, that, you kind of develop some sort of industry standard where, you can pass business to each other.
Very good. Very good. So interesting. I'm so glad to meet both of you. I can't thank you enough for sharing your time with us.
Yeah,
It's been great to speak with you, Luann.
Yeah, for sure.
I have to say, during the entire conversation, my mind just kept reeling. It's in interior design, whether home staging or interior design, the details, the responsibilities are endless. But putting that deadline on it, I mean, that's just crazy pants. I just kept thinking, that's a tremendous amount of pressure. And how critical it is for Michele and Amber to always have to be on A game. Right? There's no time to say, I'll just do this tomorrow. I'm tired. I don't know. It just was remarkable to me. Okay. And it got me thinking. And also in editing, I was really paying attention more to what were the things that Michele and Amber were attributing to, and were talking about some of the keys for their success, right? Here's what I came up with. First of all, every process from client intake to client install has to be highly systemized so that you can execute every single time on time, right? There's no room for fluff there. You've got to do it right. You have no time. It must be done right. And that requires a very systemized approach. Okay, that's one. The second is it's so important, the relationships that you build with vendor teams, because these vendor teams, whether it's the painter, the contractor, the renovator, like they discussed, they need to be on board with your turnaround times. They need to understand that 10 days means 10 days, not 10 days means 10 weeks, okay? And not every vendor understands that. So it's one thing when a vendor lets you down here and there, you miss it, they miss a date for something with the rest of the project coming together. But when every single project begins and starts and concludes in 2 weeks, that's a tremendous amount of pressure on the vendors also. So you have to have their buy-in, and you have to create a good, solid relationship with them so that they do buy in and they do want to be part of it with you, right? The other thing is, at this level of home staging, this luxury market, there's no question that you must make the financial investment into warehousing and to having your own inventory of furniture, lighting, accessories, art, bedding, and every other thing that you need to make a house look fabulous. This is an aspect that is not required for an interior design firm. So if you're thinking of home staging at this level, make sure that is part of your little research and part of your metrics for coming up with the financials, if you can do it or not. The other thing is you really have to research ahead of time, not in real time. You have to research ahead of time who the go-to resources that you can access for furniture and accessories and items when you need them quick, when your own inventory doesn't have what you need, okay? Then in tandem with this is that you have to have a very clear understanding that when you find something that's good for a particular project and you decide you're going to buy it, it can't be just good for that project. In this type of in this industry, you're not buying that project to be in someone's home for 15 years for them to enjoy. You're buying a project for probably, hopefully, less than a month. And like Amber and Michele said, that project can have value, that product can have either value in its resale. You expect it to resale with the house, or you know that it is a product or an item that you will be able to use in other projects. So it's not that one-off crazy item that is great for this room. This is not the place for that flair of creativity, right? Can't get emotional here. Then the other thing is when you're approaching the staging itself and you're looking at the home, among all the things that you have to analyze the house itself. Is the house, as they describe, the gem that will attract the buyer, and therefore your design decor has to be second fiddle? Or does the house need some love and some camouflage so that the buyer can come in and see past its less than fabulous features? Okay, this is a different direction. For each project that they do, it's a different design direction, but it has to be thought about ahead of time. Okay, and then the other thing is they made a suggestion that to find clients for this business model, that you must immerse yourself in the real estate market, that you need to network with realtors, property managers, property investors, and also corporations who are constantly relocating their top execs and needing to buy and sell properties for them quickly, easily, and efficiently. Now, there are two last things that I want you to take notice of that came from their conversation. One was when they started their business, they said they reached out to everyone they knew in their network and told them that they were in business and asked them to remember them and to recommend business to them. Okay? Realtors, investors, developers. And I just have to say, this sounds just a tiny bit familiar, doesn't it? I mean, what was it, a week or 2 weeks ago, Dala Alfawaris was on the show, and this was episode number 392. And she said that she did the exact same thing. She did it in very defined detail, calling every single person that she knew in the industry, telling them that she now opened her own firm. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you that Dala, Michele, and Amber are not the only designers to tell us that they've done this. And if you don't have a full pipeline, if you're listening to this, I don't care if it's in the future or real time. If you do not have a full pipeline and you have not done this, you have not gone to your network of people, friends, acquaintances, business acquaintances, and called them and told them that you're an interior designer and you're a home stager, then you know what? You don't get to complain about not having a full pipeline. I mean, at least not to me, you don't. That's just the truth, okay? Because here's what the thing is. You know how I feel about this stuff. If one person tells us that something works, okay, you know what? I'm game. It worked for you. That's awesome. Maybe I'll try it. Maybe I won't. But here's what I know. If several smart people tell me, particularly if several smart people tell me something works, then I know I have to pay attention. And no matter what I think of that idea, I have to just trust the process and do it. And that's what I'm telling you. If you have not done this yet for yourself, trust the process and do it. All right. Now, the final thing that I want you to take away from Michele and Amber's conversation is to recall that more than a few times, both of them mentioned how much they value having a business partner, how it makes the work and the business better for each of them. And so if you are lucky to have a trusted partner, then you know exactly what they mean. However, if you do not, what was their advice? Their advice is to go out and find yourself some designer friends that you can call on for support, for advice, and for accountability. And I need you to understand this. I need you to know and trust me when I tell you that one of my very top objectives in organizing Luann Nigara Live, it's about the conversation that is happening this March 2019 here in New Jersey, is this exact outcome, right? So it is the launch of my second book, but the format, the dynamics of the event, I have specifically designed around the conversation. And I'm making those quotation things with my fingers right now. So picture it. It's been specifically designed around the conversation, around building relationships, around creating a space for you to not only get the information you need to grow your business, but for you to meet and get to know me, my team, my co-authors, the sponsors, and maybe more importantly, to get to know each other on a deeper level. Okay, this is born out of the experience that I've been having over the last year at various industry events. Here's what I love. I love the content. I love hearing smart speakers. I love going to smart panel discussions. But what I've learned is the magic always happens at the hotel lobby bar, or at the lunch, or at just finally crashing down in a showroom at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening because you're starving and exhausted and your feet hurt and you need some food. And then you find yourself sitting there with 4 or 5 people. That's where the lessons are solidified. It's those conversations. Okay. So here's what I've done for 2 full days and an additional half day if you decide to grab a VIP ticket before that's closed out. This is exactly what I'm going to provide to you. The content that you can learn from, but the time and the space and the access to everybody that has presented that content so that you can solidify those lessons, so that you can take what you got in a conversation, but you have the time, the downtime to ask further deeper questions. And you have the opportunity to be with each other for 2 full days, like I said, or 2.5 if you do VIP, but to be with each other, not for 1 hour panel and then everybody breaks up and they go in 20 different directions. We are going to stay together like this little group the whole time. I'm going to be there the whole time. I'm not going to be going, okay, let me just that speaker's on stage and I'm going to go up to my room and take a break. No, I'm going to be on stage for all 12 presentations, okay? And every speaker, when they're not on stage, they're in the audience with you, talking with you, reacting, contributing to the conversation. It's hard for me to contain myself with this because I know this is how you get better at business, is not only hearing the conversation, not only getting inspired, but also getting the opportunity to turn that inspiration into action. Okay? That's my line, right? It's on my website. Turn inspiration into action. That's what I'm all about. I want to inspire you. I do. I've gotten feedback that that's what I do. I'm thrilled. But I want you to take those full notebooks. I want you to take those ideas, and I want you to make a change in your business, okay? So if this sounds like what you need in 2019, I hope you'll be there. And what you can do is go to luannlive.com to learn more about it, all right? Now, it's not possible for me to mention Luann Nigara Live, it's about the conversation in this particular episode, and not point out and remind to you that one of the presentations over that weekend will be with myself, Shauna Lynn Simon, who is one of my co-authors, and with Taylor Spellman. Now, if you have heard the show with Taylor Spellman, you love her. I know you do because she's amazing. If you haven't, you have to listen to her episode. But the thing is that Taylor Spellman is a luxury, high-level home stager that is doing the exact same target client that Michele and Amber are doing in London. Taylor is doing it here in New York City. So if this show is up your alley and you have any aspirations of being a luxury home stager, then you have the opportunity to meet Taylor Spellman and talk with her and pick her brain. And also, of course, with Shauna Lynn Simon, who has been coaching home stagers and teaching them how to run the processes and the systems in order to be successful. Okay? So I want you to what I just said. I want you to take the inspiration and turn it into action. Okay? All right. Thank you so much for joining me today and for tuning in. Please now take the next step. Decide. If you're going to join us, decide to do it. Take the action on it. Okay? Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.